Do you know what a Shepard tone is? What about a barber pole? Okay, well let's start there, because I want to talk about a French music trope. So a barber pole is this thing that you've probably seen outside of, well, a barber shop. And the almost interesting tidbit about this little red, white and blue oscillating pole is that it is a vestige of the early days of the barbering profession, back in the Middle Ages when barbers were, for some reason, also surgeons and dentists. Anyway, what I always find fun about going to these modern, albeit less traditional and therefore traitorous barbershops is letting my eyes and brain play with the optical illusion that is the rotating barber pole, flicking between the boring reality of a spinning pole with spirals on and the magical world-breaking mirage where red, white and blue stripes are emanating out of nowhere, lurching their way up a cylindrical perspex tube and then dissipating out the top of the tube and into the fourth dimension. Wind. What's more fun than an optical illusion? Well, a night out on MDMA, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about a Shepard tone, which is an auditory illusion which can be easily compared to the very visible illusion I just laid out in the opening. 2 minutes? Jesus Christ. Now I will get to French pop music eventually, I promise. Just stick with me here. A Shepard tone operates identically to a barber's pole, just using the audio frequency spectrum rather than a spinning piece of perspex. For anyone who isn't musically or audio minded, the audible frequency spectrum for human hearing runs from 20 Hz, very low sounds like this, up to 20,000 Hz, very high sounds like this. Now, if you couldn't hear either of those sounds, it means that you're old and your hearing has been damaged by the screams and the harassment of your ungrateful, bratty and entitled little kids who won't give you 5 minutes to just fucking think about one thing other than their needs for just a goddamn second. And if you sweep a synthesizer tone across the range, you get a sound like this. Now, if you visualize that sweep on a spectrum analyzer, you can watch the frequency move from left to right. And if you turn that spectrum analyzer on its side, you can watch it move from the bottom to the top. Not unlike a certain red, white and blue pole we were discussing earlier. Now imagine a never-ending sequence of synthesizer tones evenly separated, sweeping up the audio spectrum over and over in unison. Better yet, listen to it. It sounds like the pitch is constantly getting higher and higher, and that is because it is, but it's also restarting from the bottom of the audible spectrum over and over again. Plus, it's spilling out the top of the audible spectrum over and over again. That is what creates this barber pole-like illusion. So here we have laid out the base principle of the Shepard tone, named after an old black and white photograph of this nerd called Roger Shepard. This is a tool often used to build suspense or create tension, both in sound design and in music. One of my favourite artists, the Chemical Brothers, often lean heavily on this trick, as evidenced in this never-ending build from their 2010 epic, Escape Velocity. It's also used in my incredibly underappreciated song, Static. Wow, that song and the entire catalogue of available music by Null sounds really good. Imagine if somehow it took off and garnered a huge audience roughly 10 years after its original release. That would be one hell of a success story. So what's with all this barbershop and Shepard tone shit? And how does it relate to French music? The reason that I bring this up is that I wanted to paint the idea of an unresolving eternal auditory illusion, because I think that's a good way to describe this chord progression motif that for some reason permeated French pop music in the early thousands. Now I do make music, but I've never been much of a music theory guy. I'm a self-taught, auto dickhead. I think that's it. Where you're too emotionally stunted to think that anyone can offer you any advice or direction that would be better than what you've already figured out for yourself, and that actually you already have it all figured out whilst everyone else is just following the crowd. Yeah, auto dickhead. So I don't totally understand the theory behind this, but typically in pop music, a chord progression might loop through a few nice changes and then resolve on a nice final chord, which creates an ambience of, and here we are back at home again, ready to head back out on the journey through the same chords. But for some reason, the French really like to place that resolute home chord, otherwise known as the tonic, right in the middle of the progression instead of at the end. I love the sense of propulsion that it creates. This technique allows artists to loop those same 4 chords over and over again over a 7-minute long song without losing my attention, because I just want to keep swinging around with it. are serial offenders. Another French house classic uses the same trick. And another. And another. And another. They say love is nothing but a sore. I don't even know what love is. And I'm throwing in this American artist because this song owns, and honestly, it just sounds like another French house song to me. But the song that I've been absolutely smashing the dick out of this week is by another French artist whose first few albums are really special, Sébastien Tellier. Sébastien Tellier is the French alternative pop singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist who has never been afraid of exploring new niches and sound palettes. This is greatly demonstrated in his jump from the suave, new wave and cabaret-esque moments heard on his truly awesome album Politics to his follow-up Sexuality, which was produced by Guy Manuel de Homem Christo of Daft Punk, filled with shiny, sexy electronic jams. But his truly most inspired moment as an artist to me is still the release of this arresting and tirelessly engaging 7-minute meditation on an endlessly looping piano and drum loop, La Ritournelle. This song has been moving and affecting people since its release in 2004, and the reason it resonates so strongly with audiences is down to its propulsive, eternal chord progression, which hooks you instantly, employing a monumental sense of ennui and melancholie with such verbosity that it's impossible not to be moved by this beautiful song. It is a song that starts at the end. I mean, who starts a song like this? That is to say, from second one of this song, it feels like we're at the coda, the summary, the outro, like we've sat down to a film 60 minutes late and we're joining in Act 3. The opening seconds telegraph that we are already deep into the story that this song wants to tell. It is dramatic, it is emotive, it is urgent, with boisterous string section swells rising and falling away with the strongest impact. The song stretches for a full 4 minutes of reflection on something important before we are finally greeted with a short vocal sequence from Sébastien, documenting the steadfastness and power of the love he feels for the subject of this song. This is paired strangely with a twangy, plucky bass guitar accompaniment which jitters away alongside his vocals for a short 40 seconds before both ebb away into the ether. And the haunting chords ride out into the sunset for a further 2 minutes, still looping on and on like that Shepard tone, like that barber pole. And I can't look away from the damn thing. My barber could be screaming, "Next!" and making fierce eye contact with me, shaking down a fresh smock and indicating at the empty chair in front of him. But I will still be staring deep and interrupted into the barber pole that is Sébastien Tellier's La Ritournelle. It is one of the most impressive auditory illusions performed to date by yet another French artist. The French are crafty, I tell you. Don't trust them.